The night that should have clarified everything instead became the spark for one of the most heated debates in recent boxing memory. What unfolded between Lamont Roach and Isaac Pitbull Cruz was not just a fight, but a collision of expectations, reputations, and styles that rewrote the conversation around both men. The electricity in the arena was already heavy before the bell rang. Yet no one predicted how complicated the aftermath would become. Roach stepped into the ring ready to prove he belonged among the elite, and Cruz marched forward as if fueled by a mission to validate every fan who believed he was a future champion. From the opening exchanges, the atmosphere tilted between anticipation and chaos, each round adding another layer to a story that refused to resolve cleanly. When the scorecards were read and the fight was announced as a majority draw, the eruption was immediate. Cruz supporters in San Antonio roared in disbelief. Roach's corner froze in frustration, and the boxing world split into factions within seconds. Tank Davis wasted no time making his stance clear, firing off criticism that landed as hard as any punch thrown that night. In his eyes, Roach never had a chance and never made the adjustments needed to win. He dismissed the performance outright, insisting that Cruz had been robbed and that nothing Roach brought to the table suggested a fighter truly ready for a moment like this. The jabs were personal, sharp, and calculated to sting. But Shakur Stevenson wasn't having it. Watching from a distance, he saw a different story unfold. To him, Roach's discipline, accuracy, and ring control were enough to tilt the fight his way. And when someone as precise and analytical as Shakur calls it as he sees it, people pay attention. Ryan Garcia joined in with his own take, echoing the sentiment that Roach had done enough to edge the victory. Neither man was fiery about it, but their observations added legitimacy to the idea that Roach's performance deserved deeper consideration than Tank's dismissal allowed. Roach himself stepped into the post-fight press room with the expression of a man carrying both pride and disappointment. His posture was steady, but the pain beneath it was impossible to hide. He believed he had done enough. He believed he had answered every moment of adversity. And most of all, he believed the night should have ended with his hand raised. The knockdown in the third round, the first of his professional career, could have crushed him emotionally. Instead, he rose, composed himself, and wrestled back control of the pace. Yet the judges didn't reward him for that resilience. And as the cameras flashed, he maintained dignity, but the weight of another unresolved outcome pressed heavily on his shoulders. Then came the revelation that changed everything. Hours after leaving the arena, Roach posted footage from a hospital bed, his left hand immobilized and wrapped tightly to protect the break he had suffered early in the fight. 7 rounds with essentially one hand. 7 rounds against a pressure fighter who thrives on overwhelming his opponents. 7 rounds where he still found a way to slow Cruz down, force him to reset, counter effectively, and steal moments that analysts later praised as brilliant. The injury reframed the entire narrative, transforming what had been dismissed by some into a performance marked by courage and tactical intelligence. Even journalists like Mike Coppinger highlighted the grit it took for Roach to remain competitive under those circumstances. Still, boxing is cruel in its simplicity. Fans don't measure heart as much as they measure clarity. A draw is a draw, and Roach now finds himself carrying 2 of them back-to-back against marquee names. He knows how that looks. He knows what it suggests to promoters, matchmakers, and the public. But he also knows what those fights revealed about his level. Few fighters can stand beside Tank Davis and Pitbull Cruz with no fear. Fewer can do it twice in a single year and walk out still believing the best chapters of their career remain ahead. Roach understands that draws don't build legacy. They leave question marks, and question marks stall momentum. But they also create demand. Unfinished business is one of boxing's most valuable currencies, and Roach suddenly has plenty of it. A rematch with Cruz already feels inevitable. Both men want it. Both camps hinted at it. And fans, even those who argued online with ferocity, know deep down that the second fight would bring answers the first one couldn't. Now there's a storyline. Now there's a physical explanation. Now there's a reason to ask the question everyone avoided before the injury became public. What happens when Lamont Roach steps into the ring with full strength in both hands? Yet for all the attention on Cruz, the shadow of Tank Davis still lingers. Roach refuses to let his identity be defined by that fight. He said it plainly before and after the Cruz bout. His legacy won't hinge on being remembered as the man who lasted with Tank. He wants his own path, his own victories, his own chapters carved into the fabric of the sport without being eternally tied to someone else's stardom. He isn't chasing Tank, but he isn't running from the idea of meeting him again either. He only demands fairness, transparency, and structure. He only wants the opportunity to prepare without chaos and fight without feeling like the deck is stacked before the opening bell. Online voices called him emotional, called him a sore loser, called him everything but what he actually showed inside the ring. But fans often mistake detail for excuse. They hear a fighter explain an injury and interpret it as denial. They hear a fighter mention officiating and interpret it as softness. Roach wasn't justifying a loss. He wasn't hiding behind circumstances. He was laying out the full picture in a sport where context matters more than people admit. And the truth is he did something incredibly rare. He survived adversity, adapted mid-fight, and remained competitive against one of the most aggressive fighters in the division with only half the tools he trained to use. That, more than anything, is what keeps him alive in conversations about title contention at 140. Now he faces a crossroads disguised as opportunity. Draws may not stack belts, but they stack attention. And attention is leverage. Promoters know his name. Opponents know his skill. Fans know his heart. And every narrative surrounding him ends with the same thought: Roach has unfinished business. Where that business leads next depends on which path he chooses to walk. If you enjoyed this deep dive narrative into boxing's unfolding drama, drop your thoughts below. Did Roach deserve the win? Should Cruz grant the rematch next? And how would a healthy Lamont Roach change the story? Make sure to like the video, subscribe for more cinematic fight breakdowns, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter in the sport's most compelling rivalries.